All right, so this is a clip from the UN website under the World Health Organization, or WHO. An international treaty on pandemic prevention and preparedness. World Health Assembly agrees to launch negotiations for an agreement to fight pandemics. And it seems that they have a constitution of the World Health Organization. So they're calling themselves a World Health Assembly. Assembly is a very important word. I'll get to that later. An intergovernmental negotiating body, otherwise known as a body politic, will now be constituted. The reason why I know that is because of this. The Mayflower Compact of 1620. And that was a social compact. In the name of God, amen, we whose names are underwritten, the loyal subjects of our sovereign Lord, King James. So they're giving homage to the king. By the grace of God, King of Great Britain, blah, 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 blah. A voyage to plant the first colony in the northern parts of Virginia do by these present solemnly mutually in the presence of God and one another, covenant, that's a biblical word, and combine ourselves together into a civil body politic. For our better ordering and preservation and furtherance of the ends aforesaid. Sorry, I got mixed up on that one. And by virtue to enact, constitute. Where did I see that before? To enact, constitute. An international governmental negotiating body will now be constituted. See? Constitute. So they're calling themselves a body politic so that they can constitute. Without a body politic, you can't form a constitution. You can't do much of anything without a body politic. That's where it all starts from. So they had the ability to enact, constitute, create such just and equal laws, ordinances, acts, constitutions, and offices. And then they all signed it in agreement. This is what's called a social compact. Once you create a social compact, then the people get together into a body politic and assemble. And that is how you form a true, real government. You can't do it the way it's being done right now because of the way it's enacted. It's actually backwards of the way it should be. In fact, they never invite you to amend their constitutions now, do they? I don't know if you ever have been invited, but I'd gather you probably weren't. But what they did was they went back into the law of nations. This is from the Constitution too. And Section 8, you can read it. It says, to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations. And everyone knows their Constitution, right? So, I mean, everybody reads it. The whole thing. Right? I digress. Of course they don't. Inhabitants. The inhabitants, as distinguished from citizens, are foreigners who are permitted to settle and stay in the country, bound to the society by their residence. Now, the society that we're talking about is the people in a secret covenant or secret social compact. Those are the people that you are actually bound to. So that's the reason why you can't get anywhere, because you're not actually in your own society. You're just bound to their society by your residence. So when you check off resident when you get a driver's license, when you check off resident when you do a tax form, that's exactly what you are, a resident. And that's it. You'll never get any further. You're not really a citizen. They call you a U.S. citizen, but that kind of citizen, well, when we read on, you'll find out. They are subject to the laws of the state while they reside in it. And they are obligated to defend it because it grants them protection. Wear your mask, get your jab, shut the hell up. Though they do not participate in all the rights of citizens, they enjoy only the advantages which the law or custom gives them. The perpetual inhabitants are those who have received the right of perpetual residence, as I was saying before. These are kind of citizens of an inferior order, otherwise known as U.S. citizens. and are united to society without participating in all its advantages. Their children follow the condition of their fathers, as the state has given these the right of perpetual residence. Their right passes to their posterity. In order to form a society, in order to form a true government, you must have a social compact first. And that's how you form a government. That's how you actually form one. Otherwise, you're not forming government at all. And what you have today is this. You have no states left. There's not one in existence. And the reason why is because when I zoom in on this, you're going to see that these little blocks that are making up the United States here are all just city-states. They started building this map in 1944. If you look here in Newark, 1944. Binghamton, 1944. And as you can see, all these little blocks here are actually little city-states. And within these city-states, we have districts, but we don't have states. The reason why we don't have states is because we have no societies within the states. And because there are no societies, then they are not sovereign. Because if they had societies, they would be sovereign, because that's what a body politic is. It's sovereign. It's to replace a king or a queen. And it runs from the bottom up. So the people become sovereign when they are united in an assembly with a social compact, forming a body politic. That replaces the king or queen. When the French decided to have the French Revolution, they got together and formed their own social compact, of which they overthrew the king, beheaded him and the other woman there, I forgot what her name is now, and also arrested the Pope, who sat in jail for 4 years and died. But we can't do that today because we have no societies, we have no states left, we have absolutely nothing. And you wonder why they railroad you. They railroad you because they can. You have no society. Without a society, you don't rule. They do. Because they have their own secret society. And that society, even though it's secret, is actually a society. So when we look into constitutions today, we will see that it was supposed to be done a certain way, and it wasn't. In the state of Florida, for instance, that all free men, when they form a social compact, are equal. The state of Oregon, we declare that all men, when they form a social compact, are equal in right. State of Mississippi, that all free men, when they form a social compact, are equal in rights. State of Texas, all free men, when they form a social compact, have equal rights. State of Kentucky, all men, when they form a social compact, are equal. Now, a social compact is aside from the Constitution because you must have a social compact before you write a Constitution. State of Connecticut, all men, when they form a social compact, are equal in rights. State of Maryland, that all government originates from the people and is founded in compact only, and instituted solely for the good of the whole. They have at all times the inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish their form of government in such a manner as they may deem expedient. And it says down here from Judge Miller, he put it like this. While the Constitution may contain aspects of the social contract, if the social contract is to be entirely contained in the Constitution, it will be only in what is referred to as the unwritten Constitution. So every Constitution would be unwritten if there weren't a social compact before the Constitution. You have to have a social compact first. When we go back to the law of nations, we see this. And since precedency, this is under number 37, and since precedency or preeminence of rank is a prerogative, no nation, no sovereign can naturally claim it as a right. Why should nations that are not dependent on him give up any point to him against their will? They're talking about the king. However, as a powerful and extensive state is much more considerable in a universal society than a small state, it is reasonable that the latter should yield to the former on occasions where one must necessarily yield to the other, as in an assembly. and should pay at those mere ceremonial differences which do not in fact destroy their equality and only shew a priority of order, a first place among equals. So it's telling us here that when we build a society, people in social compact, we form an assembly, we take a first place among equals. How do you fight a sovereign? You become a sovereign. And that's how you do it, is through assembly and people in social compact. That is exactly how it's done. The Massachusetts state constitution lays that out better by saying this. This is from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Constitution. The end of the institution, maintenance, and administration of government is to secure the existence of the body politic. Notice it says to secure the existence of the body politic. To protect it and to furnish the individuals who compose it with the power of enjoying in safety and tranquility their natural rights and the blessings of life. And whenever these great objects are not obtained, the people have a right to alter the government and take measures necessary for their safety, posterity, and happiness. The body politic is formed by a voluntary association of individuals. It is a social compact by which the whole people covenants with each citizen, and each citizen with the whole people, that all should be governed by certain laws for the common good. It is the duty of the people, therefore, in framing a constitutional government, to provide for an equitable mode. Of making laws, as well as for an impartial interpretation and faithful execution of them, that every man may at all times find his security in them. So it's telling us exactly how to form a body politic. It tells you how it's made up and what it's supposed to do and what you're supposed to do with it. You're supposed to protect it. Today, people don't have a social compact. There's no such thing. Forget about civil rights when you can have equal rights. Makes a big difference. Now, if you notice, when I was reading that before on the different states, it says that people are free, all free men are equal in social compact, right? So let's look at the secret covenant. Don't know exactly where this is from. It doesn't really matter. They always have to tell you what they're doing, though, don't they? But if they ever find out they are our equals, we shall perish then. This they must never know. If they ever find out that together they can vanquish us, they will take action. Well, what makes us become their equals? If we go back to that document again, and what it says in those state constitutions, not every state constitution says it, but a lot of them do. Well, not a lot. A few of them do. They've taken out a lot. The wording's the same, but it's not they don't mention the social compact. That all free men, when they form a social compact, are equal. So we go back to that statement again. But if they ever find out they are our equals, we shall perish then. This they must never know. That's how you become their equal, is by being in social compact with others. And that's what creates your sovereignty. You're sovereign when you're in assembly with other people. You now take the place of a king or a queen. That was the whole idea behind it. And that's what was written years ago. We've lost our way, obviously, but it's still there. Everything's still the same. The only thing that's changed is man's mind. You know, it's funny. The sun still comes up. The sun still goes down. The plants bloom. The animals mate with each other. Everything goes on the same way it always did from the very beginning. The only thing that's really changed today is man's mind. And that's it. Other than that, everything goes on like business as usual. Everything's the same. Everything. So keep that in mind when you go outside and you go, oh man, the world is so screwed up today. The animals don't think so. So if we go back to the law of nations, it says here, nations or states are bodies politic. Societies of men united together for the purpose of promoting their mutual safety and advantage by the joint efforts of their combined strength. Such a society has her affairs and her interests. She deliberates and takes resolutions in common, thus becoming a moral person who possesses an understanding and a will particular to herself, and is susceptible of obligations and rights. As you lose obligations, you also lose rights. For a case in point, if you don't have an obligation to defend your nation, then why do you need a gun? You see, that whole argument is gone. Because if you're not defending your nation, what do you need a gun for? That was the whole purpose behind it. So if you don't have to defend it anymore, then there's no need to have a gun anymore, is there? And that's how they take things away little by little. They just start saying, well, we're against national prejudice. Well, if you don't believe that's true, that's okay, but let's take a look at their other part here. It was the U.S. Declaration of Interdependence of 1976. I don't think a lot of people know about this, but it actually happened. Let's see. I wanted to get it bigger, but I don't think I can get it that big. All right. When in the course of history, the threat of extinction confronts mankind, like COVID, it is necessary for the people in the United States to declare their independence from the people, with the people interdependence. I'm sorry, I screwed that all up. To declare their interdependence with the people of all nations and to embrace those principles and build on those institutions which will enable mankind to survive and civilization to flourish. Yeah, right. 2 centuries ago, our forefathers brought forth a new nation. Now we must join with others to bring forth a new world order. On this historic occasion, it is proper that the American people should reaffirm those principles on which the United States of America was founded. Acknowledge a new crisis which confronts them, like COVID, monkeypox, or whatever else they want to throw our way. Accept the new obligations which history imposes upon them and set forth the causes which impel them to affirm before all people their commitment to a declaration of interdependence. It goes on and on and on. It just gets pretty disgusting as you go down the line here. But what I want to point out is right here, to establish a new world order of compassion, peace, prejudice, justice, well, because they are doing that, but, and security. It is essential that mankind free itself from the limitations of national prejudice. This is the reason why they don't want you to, shout USA or any of that stuff, because that's national prejudice. They're going full force on this now. So this agreement was actually between 3 entities. One entity being the United States of America, here, and of course, the New World Order. When you read down on this document, you're going to find that a lot of people signed it. And a lot of them were Democrats and Republicans. So you got Democrat, Republican, Democrat, 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 Republican, Democrat, 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 Republican, all the way down, right? It's everywhere. So all the way down, all these people signed this thing in 1975, 76 era. And I recognize some of the names like this one, Walter Mondale, I remember him. Let's see. We see that the president of Harvard University signed it. Isn't that cool? Or the former U.S. Senator and Mayor of Philadelphia. U.S. Secretary of Transportation. Let's see. Former Ambassador Australia. Director Scott Paper Company. Independence National Historic Park Commission. Board of Education Philadelphia. President Philadelphia Fellowship Commission. Chairman of the board, the Fidelity Bank. Board member, United Nations Association of USA. The Franklin Mint. Delegation of 29th General Assembly of the United Nations. Let's see. Doctors, judges, lawyers, all of these kind of people. All the way down. And then, of course, you get into cooperating first step of the Council's program, American Assembly, American Chemical Society, College of Physicians, Council on Foreign Relations. Oh, that's a surprise right there. Fund for Peace. Oh, that's a good one. Girl Scouts International Congress 76. Let's see. World Affairs Organization, American Bar Association. There's a surprise. U.S. Council of the International Chamber of Commerce, Food and Agriculture Organization, Atomic Energy, the World Bank, Court of Justice, World Court, International Development Association, Labor Organization, International Monetary Fund. Boy, that's a surprise too. There's a lot of surprises here, aren't there? International Telecommunications Union, United Nations Children's Fund, Universal Postal Union, World Health Organization, etc., etc. The interdependence assemblies, their concluding consultation and convocation, will provide the initial 1976 program agenda for the bicentennial era, paralleling the 13 years matching this period between 1776 and the final adoption of the U.S. Constitution in 1789. So they had this planned for a long time. It was actually planned a lot longer than this, but there was also another Declaration of Independence as well. And that was of course, between the different departments of government. Intergovernmental cooperation is what it was called. And when you look into here, you'll see that they built a society as well. So, let's see. I think it's compact. Yeah. This may take the form of an interstate compact. See, they made a compact between the different agencies in the government. If you don't think that's true, then you should be reading some of the documents. In any case, this was in Common Council, July 22nd, 1937. The Declaration of Interdependence of the Governments within the United States of America. So this is talking about the same things. When in the course of human history, it becomes necessary for a nation to repair the fabric which unites its many agencies of government and to restore its solidarity, which is vital to orderly growth. It is the duty and responsible officials to define the need and find a way to meet it. Ooh. So there you go. And this is when they started pushing this other stuff too. And from that beginning in 1787, sprang the world's history's finest example of the democratic form of government. Look at that. It's not supposed to be a democratic form of government, is it? But they started using that term in 1937. The history's all there. It's gathering it up. That's the hard part. It's everywhere. In 1840, what year was that? 1830. 7? Yeah, 18 something. In any case, it was before the Civil War. They used to put this in school books. Right here. This is a passage from a school book. The children were learning about this. I mean, how did the Pilgrims learn it? Government is sometimes spoken of as a social compact, an agreement between all the members of the community. This is rather a definition of what government should be than what it is. In the United States, where the people make the government, it may be called a social compact or agreement between the members of the community. But in Russia, where the people at large have nothing to do with making the government, it can hardly bear this designation. The government is forced upon the people and is established without their cooperation. It may be indeed said that submission applies assent, and that this submission makes the people parties to the social compact or agreement. But we know in many cases this assessment is extorted by military power, like military occupation, or other circumstances which control the freedom of the citizens, like release a pandemic. There can be, strictly speaking, no compact which is not freely entered into by all parties. Any government, therefore, which is founded in force, which is not the free sanction of the people at large, is not a social compact. So they talked about social compacts in school years ago. That would have been what was the prelude maybe to social studies, But it was still there. They were talking about social compacts. We don't talk about social compacts today. It's what unites the people. It's the very founding of the glue that holds the people together in creating a real nation. If you don't believe that, then read about what the Pilgrims did. Read about what the French did. It's throughout history. But we've lost that history along the way. And it's only getting worse. Because of this not having a social compact has really destroyed this country. That used to be. So, it brings us to this. No social compact means no authority and consent of the government cannot be given. And therefore, all that is left is slavery, perpetuated against those who become subjects of an unauthorized legislature. A social compact is a speech of the people. If the speech of the people is absent, there is no society formed, no state can exist, no government, and no country. If the people are not willing to stand up and limit the runaway state legislatures with a present-time social compact, then there is nothing more to say. Your guns will be gone, the socialists will run your business, your life, and own your property. Private property rights will not exist, and as always, the choice is yours. Any questions up to this point?
Tom, where does that last page that you just showed? I mean, basically it shows exactly what they're doing right now. Where did you get that?
Which one?
The one that you just read that said that your private property would be gone.
Yeah, that was in the 123rd T-Row show.
Okay.
I have a copy of it, so. Who's asking me?
Deep in.
Okay. Here, I'll give it to
you later.
Okay. No, I'll send it to you right now. Don't worry about it. That way I won't forget.
I want to interrupt your flow.
Hey, what I usually do is I usually shortcut screenshot on my screen. So I'll program a shortcut, like a hotkey. And whenever he comes up with something that I like to do, I'll just hit a real quick shortcut or whatever and take a screenshot of mostly what he does. It's a lot easier.
That's great because I've been trying to keep up and cropping them at the same time. It doesn't work.
It's not easy to keep up with. I pretty much go over the same thing though. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Tom. Yeah, you could just program a hotkey real quick. Like next time, just go into your settings and program a hotkey for screenshot, and it helps a lot. I yield.
All right, thank you.
So who has questions?
I have one. This is Shane. I'm a new. I just started listening to videos. I think it's TROH videos. I think I'm up to number 15, which 15 is the one you're just talking about, the states and the overlap of the like zip codes or lots. When did that come about? I can't remember when that all was put together. And like what year that was. Do you know?
I'm not sure about the year, but when I was a kid, because I live in Massachusetts, I used to have to write out Massachusetts on every envelope I sent out on the return address, and also the address I was sending it to. Every state was actually spelled out. And then all of a sudden it became MASS. That was the prefix for it. That was an overlay. Then it became MA, another overlay. And then it became the zip code +4. That's another overlay. So I would say probably in the 70s, they really started to implement a lot of this because you never actually address a state anymore. According to the UPU, they come up with new codes. And those new codes are always overlays. I'm thinking maybe 60s or 70s is when they started really implementing it. Because if you look at that map, a lot of this stuff was completed in the 60s. Right? So if you just take a look at it, you can see a lot of the stuff here in the 60s. See it? Which makes sense, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
So that's my thought on it. I could be wrong, but it seems to line up, right?
Kissinger comes to mind. Is that the right time frame?
Possibly. I don't know. It's hard to figure out exactly when that might have occurred, but because it was so underhanded the way they did it. Everything they do is underhanded, as you know. So they really did everything very slowly when they did things. They did them very, very slowly. And you just didn't notice it like it was a big thing at the time. But when you look back on it, you can see how they just did it slowly and they did it methodically.
Don, would it be safe to say that the reason why they had to do it this way was because that they formed a social compact in secret and then tried to take over the country in that manner instead of forming states and forming assemblies? The reason why they had to form these districts and make them seem like that they were states was because they were doing this in secret?
That could be, but I can't really speculate on that because I'm not really sure. I just know that they did it.
Do you think that this started with the United Nations and they came up with this big plan and they sent out?
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, the United Nations is behind all of this.
Tom, I was going to tell you when I listened to the video, I don't know, divine nature or what. I think it was Keith. I think it's his name, Keith, who was talking about it. He named one of those cities, which is Poplar Bluff, and I think it's in Missouri. I live 20 miles from there, born and raised. So I thought that was unique when he threw that name out there.
Yeah, he's very knowledgeable, and you're right. His name is Keith. He's still around.
All these squares.
Yeah.
All of these squares that we're looking at, is this when we started to see, like I grew up in the country and we had townships, but then you would pull into some cities and it would say City of Charleston Incorporated. Is that?
Well, they were all incorporated. They were all incorporated.
No, I mean before. Like this map shows, from basically 44 on up, this is the incorporation, right? These city-states?
Well, this is more of an overlay than an incorporation because the Articles of Confederation are still available today, right? In fact, they still know what the name of the country is. I don't know if you know that or not. And I can prove that to you. All you have to do is look at Trump's tweet in 2019, and you'll see it. He knows what the name of the country is. I am pleased to inform you that the United States of America has reached a signed agreement with Mexico. Why would he use that name? When clearly on the side of the president's plane it says United States of America, not the United States of America. Now, if you don't know where the United States of America came from, it actually came from the Articles of Confederation, right here. Articles of Confederation, March 1st, 1781. Articles of Confederation and perpetual union between the states. And it mentions all the states, and it says the style of this confederacy, the way it's written, that's what a style is, shall be the United States of America. So we go back to Trump's tweet, and we see he's using that name. That's not a mistake. That's in the middle of a sentence. So why did he use that name?
Would a better question be, how could he have used that name? If that
easily.
Isn't that the name of Isn't that the name of the nation, of the country?
Yes, it is. But it's also militarily occupied.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Remember, we have a standing army. It's under martial law, right?
Yep, that's right, Tom. Yep.
So he used that name under power of attorney because he's the commander-in-chief at the time. And, well, that's the reason why he used that name. But there was another reason, too. You can't treaty with another country without using a country name. You can't use a company name. So, yes, the United States of America still exists today. Have I lost anybody?
Nope. Still here.
No, I mean, as far as this information goes. I mean, it's all there. It's just that people don't do research. They don't look anything up. They've gotten pretty lazy about reading these days. So you can see what's going on here. There were two separate timelines. There was the one of the Crown, which they wrote a Declaration of Independence, and, there were two. You find little gems when you actually do your research, like this one. This is from the National Archives. That means it's from the Library of Congress. It's a Crown copyright. And let's see what it says. In Congress, July 4th, 1776, a declaration by the representatives of the United States of America. That's not what it was called. In fact, I don't remember it being written that way. Do you guys?
This is
Anyone?
the most upsetting thing that I've ever came across in my life when you showed me this the first time.
That's definitely a different style of government, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah, it's definitely different. In fact, that is not the Declaration of Independence that we all know and love, is it? Does that look like it? It doesn't to me. I remember saying something entirely different. If I can just find the damn thing.
What is the symbol on that one? Can't read that.
Oh, that's Her Majesty's State Paper Office. That was a document from the Crown. This is the one we all know and love right here. This one look familiar? In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United, lowercase, States of America. Let's take a look at that other one again. In Congress, July 4th, 1776, a declaration, not a unanimous declaration, by the representatives of the United States of America.
Would representatives mean that they are now out of society?
Well, it would mean that they're representatives appointed by whom? Who knows? In General Congress assembled. Remember what I was talking about in assembly, right? Right there, they were assembled. So you look down this document, and just in case you think I'm kidding about this, what does it say right here? It says United States of America. See it? In General Congress. Signed by order in behalf of the Congress. What Congress are they talking about? Because I thought it was General Congress. Right? Let's see who our traitors are. Ooh, John Hancock. Our first traitor arises, and his accomplice, Charles Thompson. And if we go back to the other one, we see that Johnny signed this one too. Double agent, maybe? Who knows?
Maybe that's where he got the confidence to sign that signature so big.
Yeah. But if you look in here in this one, it says United States of America with a lowercase u, see it? United is lowercase, and then States of America is uppercase, as uppercase A.
Do you think the other ones obviously were signed in secret, right? Because
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. But when you start looking at the Treaty of Paris, right? I don't know if you've read it or not. It having pleased the divine providence to dispose of the hearts of the most serene, most potent Prince George III, by the grace of God, King of Great Britain, blah, 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 Arch-Treasurer, right here, and Prince Elector of the Holy Roman Empire, etc., and of the United States of America. So that's where they got the United States of America from, is from that Declaration of Independence that they did. That was written by the Crown. And if you look right here, Treaty of Peace proposed and concluded between Crown of Great Britain, the bank, and said United States, the bank. So there were two banks involved in this. David Hartley, Esquire, John Adams, Esquire, Benjamin Franklin, Esquire, and John Jay, Esquire. They were all Esquires that signed it, meaning they were just below a sir, otherwise known as a scribe. All lawyers are esquires. Are they not?
Was this the beginning of the bar association? These
It could
esquires?
have been. It could have been.
Now, do you think our guys signed the Declaration of Independence on what was it, July 2nd, 1776, right?
Right.
And then when England knew that they were, or they had, whatever they did, they knew that we were going to win, or they tricked us into winning. Do you think when they slid that other declaration in, the Crown copy?
It could be. I'm not sure. I think
Because
the
this would have
colonists
been
had to
years
jump
later,
on them when
right?
they did the Articles of Confederation. This was just 2 years after the Articles of Confederation, right here, 1783. Remember, the Articles of Confederation were done in 1781, which all of the states agreed upon. All those people that were elected to offices from the Articles of Confederation turned their backs on the Articles of Confederation, therefore abandoning their office and going into a new constitution which they had no authority to sign. They have a word for that. It starts with T. So there was one man who said it best, and that would be General Cornwallis. He's a man who relinquished his sword to Washington. And this is what he had to say. A holy war will now begin on America, and when it is ended, America will supposedly be the citadel of freedom. But her millions will unknowingly be loyal subjects to the crown. He was absolutely right. The crown does run the UN, the World Economic Forum, the WHO, etc. That one little city-state, 1 mile square in England, runs all of this crap. Ain't no joke. Any questions?
Yes. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Hello, can y'all hear me?
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Bobby.
In this day and age, how I know that y'all spoke about the crown and the monarchy. What are the, and I'm quite sure y'all already touched upon this, how are the conflict of interest of trying to fight for your freedoms in a monarchy versus if you were to try to fight for your rights here? I'm not 100% keen on a monarchical patriarch works when it's in peacetime or wartime. Can you get into that just a little bit?
I don't understand. I don't understand your question. Does anybody understand the question he asked?
He cut out.
Breaking up.
Well, he didn't ask it again, so I'm not sure. The thing is, I went over the states with you, right? But it becomes very clear when you start looking in constitutions, and you can look at your own constitution as well. Now, this one here says it was amended in 2019. Erica, you live in Texas, right?
Yes, sir.
Were you invited to the amendments that were included, the new ones? Were you invited to this thing here?
No, I wish I would have.
I wonder why.
I guess because I'm not in the club, you know.
That could be. That could be. Let's take a look at the very specific word that's really easy to see, right? Let's just go with the word state, right? Notice here it says lowercase state. Copies of the publication have been distributed in compliance with the state depository law. Not sure what state they're referring to, but you can see it right there. They have a lowercase state. Now, a real state would be an uppercase S. It's a person, place, a thing. It's proper noun. It's got a uppercase S. Okay? But when you start talking about a state, you should really define what that state may be or what it is. Because really, you should just say the state of Texas because that's what it is. But that's not what it's saying here. So let's continue on. Texas state publications. Okay. Texas State Library and other state libraries. What state are they referring to here, I wonder? All right, so let's keep going. And we'll see state, the state, this state, this state, the state. See the right here? The state. The state, this state, the state, this state, this state, this state, the state, the state, the state, the state, this state. It all seems very confusing, doesn't it? This state, this state. Now it's talking about a different state because this is not a capital letter S on the state. So we're referring to a different state altogether right here. This is not the same state that they're referring to before. Because they changed it from uppercase to lowercase. You see it? And they do this in a lot of the constitutions if you look through. This state, again, is lowercase to S. Again, this state, lowercase to S. Now, we do have a definition of the state here. It says, the state, a political subdivision of the state. How does that make any sense? The state, a political subdivision of the state. Or entity granted the power of eminent domain under law. What law? Or the elimination of urban blight on a particular parcel of property. If you're not confused by reading this document and seeing this state and the state and lowercase state, then this should confuse you a little bit more because their definition has three definitions to that definition. So they still never tell you what this state is, and they don't tell you what the lowercase s state is. But you got the idea. They're conning you. So when you look at a document like, I don't know, the oath to a constitution and stuff like that, when you take office, this is from the West Virginia Constitution, which would be, if you're going to say state, you should say state of, and then tell what that state is. I mean, wouldn't that be easier to do than just write this state of the state? Because that way you know what you're talking about. Obviously, you have no clue what you're talking about if you don't know that. Every person elected or appointed to any office before proceeding to exercise the authority or discharge the duties thereof shall make oath or affirmation that he will support the Constitution of the United States. And by the way, that's a separate oath. It's supposed to not be included with the oath of the state, but I digress because I see it all the time. They actually include it with the same one. And the Constitution of this state. Here we go with this state again. Define this state. What are you talking about? And that he will faithfully discharge the duties of his said office in the best of his skill and judgment. Well, faithfully discharge. Doesn't discharge mean like a banker's term? So it kind of sounds to me like you're going to hand it off to somebody else. Discharge it. I'm not going to do that. I'm discharging it to you. Nowhere in this whole thing do I see an acceptance of the duties and responsibilities or the office that's being held. In a real government, you would do that. You'd actually acknowledge that you're taking the duties and responsibilities in the office that you hold. But nowhere in here do I see that. Correct me if I'm wrong. And also, you know, I mean, if you're going to write Constitution and the Constitution of this state, why not say and the Constitution of West Virginia? Because that would be proper. That'd be absolutely right. But that's not what they put there. You see how they trick you? You think you can read a document and you look at it and you say, oh, well, I think it's saying this. Well, you can have your opinion of what it's saying all day long, but in reality, it's not even telling you what it's supposed to. Every document does this. You see it over and over and over again. Case in point, if I show you this from an executive order from the state of New Hampshire, you'll see that, first of all, state of New Hampshire, by His Excellency, that's very interesting, Christopher T. Sununu, Governor. Well, here's my problem. I look down the bottom of this and I see something very wrong. It's where he signed it there. It says Governor of New Hampshire. There's no such thing as an office of Governor of New Hampshire. It'd be Governor of the state of New Hampshire. So he never signed this executive order because he never signed it under his office, if he in fact holds that office. You see how they trick you? There's
Hey,
no
Tom,
such thing. Yeah.
wasn't there some sort of document by our founding fathers that rebuked the use of any type of title from?
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that something? That's why I pointed that out. His Excellency, Esquire. Those are all titles. Right out of the city of London. So then you start seeing oaths from these different people. And I'll show you how they really screw you up on these things. This is funny. This one's really funny to me, and I'll tell you why. There's no such thing as the state of Hawaii. You can't find a constitution to actually say that. Not with an apostrophe I, anyway. No such thing. I, David Y. Eage, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. That's supposed to be separate. Again, I told you that. That's called an Article 6 oath. And the Constitution of the state of Hawaii with apostrophe I, which does not exist because there is no constitution for the state of Hawaii with an apostrophe I. And I will faithfully discharge the duties as governor of the state of Hawaii that doesn't exist. And let's just write our name on there. And to make it even better, we have the judge stating that he is the Chief Justice from the state of Hawaii that does not exist.
Does the state of Alaska exist? Was there a constitution for that?
Well, there's probably a constitution for it. I haven't seen it, but I'm sure there is one.
Well, anybody can look up the fact, and this was told to me actually earlier when I first started coming to the National Assemblies. It was told to me that, and I looked it up myself and verified it, Hawaii was actually once a small kingdom. But somehow it was conquered by the United States due to the fact it was close to the Cuban border. And the fact of the matter is they didn't want Cuba, another part of the country, to invade there, because back in the 60s they had the Cuban Missile Crisis with the Russians, and if I'm not mistaken, anyone can correct me on this. I think they had like allies. I believe this was before Fidel Castro days. But that's the reason why Hawaii doesn't have a constitution, and Alaska don't have a constitution, because once upon a time they were part of Russia, if I'm not mistaken. But anyone can correct me on that. I yield.
All right, so let's verify that Hawaii doesn't have a constitution then, if that's the case, right? I have to beg to differ with you. Looks to me like they do have a constitution.
New is it?
But there's no apostrophe I on it, as I said.
If you do the first link, Tom, the Ballotpedia or whatever, if you go back to your search, your Brave search, it actually tells you when when the first Constitution was, the very first one. Go back down. Scroll back up. And it's the right here, Ballotpedia, right here, Hawaii Constitution, Ballotpedia. Yep, that'll tell you the complete history of when it first was. There you go.
Hawaiian State Constitution, as a state in the United States, was adopted by voters in July 27, 1959. Notice it says state in lowercase. That's significant.
How many times it's been amended? 269 times.
Yeah, and I bet none of the people from Hawaii ever attended it. Right?
Yeah.
But again, it's telling you that, like I said, there's no such thing as Hawaii Constitution with an apostrophe I. Right? And isn't it funny that their flag has a British Jack on it? Isn't that something? What am I missing here?
What did you say?
Their flag has a British Jack on it.
That's Scotland, Ireland, and England's United. It's United Kingdom flag, or the mark of United Kingdom.
Well, I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say that at all.
The corner flag.
No. Let's take a look in our history a little bit, shall we? That's the British East India Company flag. Kind of looks like that, don't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that's who took over the United Kingdom then. Those guys.
Well, I would say it's part of the British East India Company.
Okay.
That's what I think. Now, if you look at the British Jack, by the way, it's got that cross in the middle of it, and that would be the Dutch East India Company right there with the cross. Yeah. Oh yeah, and then there's another familiar one.
Well, these people got lazy making flags, I swear.
No, they didn't. They didn't get lazy at all. What they did was they became one with each other. In fact, there's 13 stripes in this flag, and this is the British East India Company flag. 13 red and white stripes.
No coincidence.
That 13
No
families?
coincidence at all.
That's the 13 families?
Yep. As you can see, this flag looks almost the same. It's just got the blue instead of the red and the white. See the blue in there? But that is, their colors, isn't it?
That's bizarre.
So there are 8 families that own Hawaii or something? Or with the
That could be. It depends on who. Well, that could be. I'm not sure. I'm not going to speculate on that, but I can almost guarantee that the 13 families did the 13 stripes on the flag. They'll tell you it was from the blood that was spilt and everything, but I don't believe that. I believe it was the 13 families. But even still, when you read these sections here, remember it says here, all persons are free by nature, which is true, and are equal in their inherent and inalienable rights. Among these rights are the enjoyment of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the acquiring and possessing of property. These rights cannot endure unless the people recognize their corresponding obligations and responsibilities. And their obligations are what?
Well, but if they're inhabitants, then they don't have those. They only have privileges, right?
That's right. They don't have anything other than that. Yep. That's right. So, but it's telling you that these rights cannot endure. See it right there? These rights cannot endure unless the people recognize their corresponding obligations and responsibilities.
From a society, right?
Build a society. You got it. Yep. It's telling you there. You just don't read it. You see? It's mentioning all the things that the others would mention, but it's not telling you the one thing that the others do. Right?
Did you ever mention anything about that rendering it null and void if they do anything wrong or they have petition signed or anything?
Oh, that doesn't make any difference. That'd be an unlawful assembly anyway.
I mean, honestly, I think those petitions are worthless because you're not speaking to them as an equal because you're not in society with them. You don't have a social compact with them. Therefore, you are not first among equal. That's why you only get 5 minutes in their school board sessions, and they can kick you out at any time. Is that about right, Tom?
Yeah, but actually, the school boards are actually PMAs. They're a little bit different. They're private member associations.
Are they even still alive? Any of these people?
What people?
Signed any of it?
What do you mean? I don't understand. What people are you talking about?
Hawaii one. I was just wondering if any of them were alive still. Like any people that actually had signed it.
Are you talking about in 59 when they made this? The people who signed it originally is what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Well, you're talking about a lot of years. I don't know.
Yeah, I was born in 50, and he's 72, so they probably still are around. They're probably just in hiding.
Maybe. But it does show you this right here. You know, when you read the documents, it does show you these things. Obviously, there is a constitution.
Society, right, Tom? They're basically telling you in their own secret language that if you want to be free and clear, you have to recognize that you have to create a social compact. That's basically what they're saying in their own secret, twisted language, right? So they have to tell you the truth in plain sight, but they twist it so much to where you don't understand what you're reading.
That's right. Yeah. They just took social compact out of that because it was later on in history. It was when they were building these city-states, right?
Yeah, they disclose everything that they're doing.
So my interpretation of it is that if the society does not accept them as the government, then they don't have those rights.
No, that's not what that is. You're confusing inhabitant with people in social compact. These people that are running things right now have a social compact with each other. It may be a secret covenant, but it's still a social compact. You don't have one, therefore you're an inhabitant or a perpetual resident. No more, no less. You haven't built a society, so you're not sovereign. They are, though.
And remember, Jonathan, if you're not in social compact, you're literally considered an inhabitant, right? And an inhabitant is different from a citizen. An inhabitant only has privileges that can be taken away, and not they don't have rights, right? Because they don't have obligations to this. They don't have obligations, so you only are provided a privilege, which is then passed down from father to son, is until you form a society or create a social compact or an assembly, right? So if you remain outside of that, then you remain an inhabitant, which means that you really don't have rights. You just have a privilege of living in the territory. You're required to fight for them, but you only have a certain level of privilege because you're not part of that society. But they allow you to live there as an inhabitant.
And that's the reason why you're a renter and not an owner.
Tom, so if a father was in social compact and he had a child, that child was born into that social compact, or that child has to swear into it?
No, that child is born into it and considered part of it until such of age as he agrees to take his own oath with it, or affirmation, depending.
So this is, in a nutshell, why the rich get rich and they stay that way, because they're all in this together and they just keep it from everyone else.
Right.
You're born into it.
They do. Yeah. They are. They're born into it. And they have their own secret society, and they are running as a political, a body politic, which they have the right to do, but so do we. When we understand it, we can actually do something about it. But since we don't understand it, and we don't do anything about it, and we just let it continue. And that's the way society's gone for a very long time. You can't change something you don't understand.
And that's why all these guru people are getting in trouble and going to jail and doing things incorrectly because they don't have the right.
They don't have the meets and bounds and boundaries.
No, they don't have a social compact. They don't have an agreement with each other. They don't have a body politic, etc., etc. In a bottom-up government, you have a social compact, and that's how it works.
No matter how many times they want to say they're sovereign or claim that they're doing something, they're in the wrong. They're not going to be right at any point in time.
Do you mean I can't be a state national like David Straight says? Because, wait a second, there's no states that exist. Oops.
No.
They're all in trust.
Exactly.
Tom, can you expound on that? About how the people that do evil are still within the law?
Oh, they're following natural law because they have done exactly what they're supposed to do. Nations are bodies politic, right? So they built their city-state with a bodies politic. I mean, it's right in the law of nations. Nations or states are bodies politic. That's what they did. Societies of men united together for this purpose of promoting their mutual safety and advantage by the joint efforts of their combined strength. This little city of London became their own body politic. You're not in a body politic. That makes them sovereign and you not. Therefore, you can't combat them because you are not a sovereign. No misunderstandings there, is there?
So until one's sovereign, you really don't have any rights. You just have privileges.
That's right.
And you're only sovereign when you're in assembly, though. See, a person is not sovereign. The body politic is sovereign. An individual is not sovereign. It's only when we gather, it's only when we assemble are we a sovereign together.
People can say, like, oh, my belief in God, God's my creator, so I'm sovereign because I don't, belong to any man and blah, blah, blah. Well, unfortunately, that's not how any country recognizes anything, unfortunately. I mean, welcome to Satan's sandbox. And the only way you're sovereign is if you're born a king or a queen, which no one here is, or if you're in social compact. That's it. There is no individuality of sovereignship, right? I mean, the Constitution and under Section 8, Tom talks about it a lot. The book, The Law of Nations, is talked about under Section 8 of the Constitution that you would like to think is your document. And the book, The Law of Nations, was written it stems back from the Bible. No joke.
Sergeant, can you expound on that, Sergeant? That it actually goes back to the Ten Commandments. That was their social compact.
Well, Jesus was actually building a nation, and he was giving the social compact when he said someone, if they try to hit you, he says to turn the other cheek and all that stuff. And it talks about him going off into the desert a bunch of times. He was actually building a desert out in that nation, a nation out in that desert where people were living by the social compact he was putting forth in the Bible. No joke. And that's another reason why they didn't like him, because people were following him and wanting to live like that and living in truth. Okay, with the way, why Jesus talked in parables a whole lot? Back when he was walking the planet, if you accused somebody without proof that they were wrong, they would, stone you to death. So he had to tell you were wrong without saying you. He had to make you look within to see that you were doing something wrong. Because it wasn't the time when God wanted Jesus to get, taken out. So he talked in parables, he talked in circles so that people would look within themselves. Because if you sat there and pointed the finger without physical proof, they wouldn't have it.
Some
Hey,
scholars.
Tom.
Go ahead, Nikki.
Sorry, I sent you something. I don't know if it's, valid enough or whatnot, but from everything I've heard, it sounds like it could be something that could maybe override or all the signatures and things like it. It could be kind of the same thing, only.
Tom, did you explain to them what the American Nationals did with New York in the bill that the company struck down once everything went to publication? because the deep state doesn't want to tell everybody that the Bible, the written word, is the truth. And just to give you a little touch on that is when you get married or die, where does your name go, guys? Does it get published in the paper?
Every time I get kicked off. Ugh. Sorry. Yeah, I get published in the paper. Everything has to be published.
That's right, the written word. And when no one contests it, it becomes the truth. Just like the Bible. They don't want to tell you that everything is real that was written in the Bible.
I don't know where I got cut off, but I sent you something. I'm not sure if but it sounded like it could be something that could override what's already there, like with their system and their signing and their collectively the agreement and everything. It's a global monetary system by the people for the people. Anyway, if you want to look at it, it could be something, but it seems like it's got a pretty good start on it, and they're teaching classes and stuff whatnot on it too.
Could you send it to Nikki?
What people? What people? There's no people.
Global monetary system for the people, gpms.org.
Yeah, they're not people.
They're inhabitants. By the people, for the people.
Yeah, they're inhabitants. They haven't exiled from the company, so they're still inhabitants.
Well, it's supposed to be like something that's signed collectively. We get enough signatures and that's supposed to override their.
Can I give you an example? Let's say the children of Israel that were still in Egypt, they tried to come together and they tried to collectively try to say that they no longer wanted to live under Egypt's rule, and they signed a petition or whatever. They probably would have been killed or whatever. They had to first exile from Egypt in order to come in to be in compact with each other. First, you have to exile. So you have to exile the company first. That's your first step, is to exile.
How do you exile a land where there's no land to go to, though? They claim all.
Oh, there is. Yes, there is.
Oh, yes, there is.
Yes, there is. Go ahead, Tom.
This goes a lot deeper. I'm only giving you an overview. I'm looking for those who are interested. There's a lot more information. I'm just not going to give it to you all in one night. I'm just trying to open up your eyes. If you can see it, then you'll see something really important here. But if you don't see it, that's fine. Stay on the path you're on.
Well, fraudulent to begin with. Everything that was a part of it.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. But it's also fraudulent what they're doing that you're talking about right now. Because they have not exiled from the company in order to build a real nation to be able to do something like that.
No, I think some of them might have. I don't know how many, though.
Really? You have their names?
Research them enough to find out.
Because if they haven't come here, then they haven't exiled from anything. There's no place for them to go.
Well, not everybody knows about right here.
That's true, but I'm just saying there's no place for them to go. So that means they just turn around and go right back into the city-state. That's the issue.
That's for instance, Nikki. Everybody that is doing the David Straight thing or the Anna Von Wright thing or any of these other gurus, even Russell J. Gold, it's turning them back into the Vatican because there's nowhere else to exile.
This is a worldwide thing that they're doing.
It doesn't even matter. They need a body politic in order to do it. And they have to exile from the company in order to do that, and exile from the organizations that are right now doing their bidding. So
you have to pay money to do that, right?
To do what?
Style from it?
No. No, you don't. We have a whole method of how to do it. And it actually works.
And it's through filing documents, right?
Filing what?
Claiming your residency and going through the process to become sovereign and enjoying an assembly, right?
Well, you first declare your independence individually, and then you join a body politic within the metes and bounds of the United States of America and the seaward boundaries thereof.
Is it pertinent to kind of give them the Reader's Digest of how we came about the meets and bounds, Tom, or is that too much?
No, actually, hold on a second. Alan, take over for me, will you? Alan Poe? Paging Alan Poe. Alan Poe? Alan Poe?
Hey there, I'm here. What's going on?
You mind taking over for me? I gotta go pick up my son.
Okay. Where'd you go?
How we came about the meets and bounds and seaward boundaries thereof, how that happened.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm still, studying how this all happened as well. But from what I understand, it was around 2009 or 2010, somewhere in there. And basically the people who, got together and made this all happen, I think there was about like 46 of them, but they basically realized nobody had made claims to the meets and bounds and seaward boundaries. And I think what they were actually trying to do is kind of secure some of their land through a land patent. And they just actually kind of just happened to, stumble upon this and realize that nobody had claimed this and the original nation had the rights to do so. So it all just sort of fell into place there. But a really good one to watch regarding that would probably be the T-Row Special Edition number 3. That honestly explains everything, like start to finish in a sense of,
Erica, could you drop that in the chat, or Sheila?
But again, I mean, what made it was the social compact, and like that's what made this nation all possible. That's if there's anything to take away is really learning about how a social compact works and how powerful of a tool and instrument it is to building a civil society, building a nation,
Is there any new ones on here tonight?
Yeah, there's a few.
Yeah,
Maybe
we
a
got
handful.
we got new faces.
Okay, if you guys want, I can hop in and do the resident declaration process.
Go ahead, Jenna.
For
All right, thanks, Sheila. Let me start screen sharing.